in the next 5 years, this is what I want this to look like. That's where it gets exciting. And if you use that reference point going forward, you look at this picture, this is 5 years ago. My family's completely different today. If you roll it forward, I'm like, this is me plus 5. And if you'd told me this, I'd have been like, really? Like, we're growing. More kids, grandbaby, like crazy stuff. Go to the next slide and you'll say, like, this was gonna happen in me plus 5? This little guy? You start rethinking your priorities, right? And what it is you want to do and be when you stop and process this. If you're wrapped around the axle of you like plus 24 hours, right? And all you're thinking about is like what I'm going to eat and do the next day, it can start to kind of feel like the path is just taking you along. You're along for the ride on your own life. You're the bumper sticker on your own car as opposed to driving it. It can start to feel a little that way. You can go weeks and days and months and pretty soon years and you're like, I'm not really sure this is what I intended for this to look like or feel like or be like. So with that concept of U plus 5, look at this question. When I say versions, what comes to mind? If I said versions, shout them out to me.
Software.
What's that? Cell phone? Chapters, Windows, like software, right? Microsoft Windows, like version 2.0, version 3.0. So this is what, what's that? Teslas, thank you. Well said. Nice and loud. Go to the next slide for me, Susan. So here's what comes to my mind. These are all the different versions of the iPhone. From 1 all the way to the new 11 Pro Max. Sorry to the Android lovers in the room. So look at this image. I have a question for you to consider. Let's say we could drop a microphone into every conference room in every Apple facility in the country or around the world. And I could record the conversations that are happening in all of the conference rooms around Apple. Question. How many conversations would I be able to identify now, today, that would be about the iPhone 4? What do you think? As a percentage of the total conversations happening at Apple, I'm thinking it's low single digits, maybe even 0. Maybe somebody's like, oh, we still got people out there using this old thing, right? Next question, drop a microphone in every conference room in Apple. How many conversations could I record at 100% that would be focused on or talking about the iPhone 12? Right? Very significant percentage. How many conversations, likely unintelligent conversations, do you have with yourself about your iPhone 4? You. What if the version is you? Maybe your iPhone 4 was an interaction with a teacher at school that told you you weren't good at this, or even worse yet, someone you love telling you you weren't good at something. Maybe it was a job you got overlooked on several years ago that led to a kind of a trajectory in your career that you thought, this isn't what I signed up for. Maybe it was something good, but what I find is in this kind of an industry, the single biggest barrier to your own success, and by the way, don't think I'm one of these guys up here that's going to tap dance and tell you that see it is the only place for you to succeed. That's garbage. You can succeed anywhere. And I don't think we're the only company in the world that's got the answer to everything. I think we've got something pretty special, and you're here for a reason. But I'm not the guy that's going to come up here and start tackling them for you and say, this is the only key on the piano. That's not true. What is true is most people are settling for a version of themselves that's not really focused on the future. They may be actually spending more time thinking and talking about an iPhone 4 instead of 90, 95, or 100% of their time saying, the iPhone 12. Where do I want to live? Where do I want to go with this life of mine? Which incidentally is a gift every single day. The health you have, even with or without pain, it's a gift. So your job is to consider this notion of, do I spend any time pondering the next version of myself? Do I really sit back at all and consider my potential, my strengths, what I think I can do well? ASEA happens to be an environment where the number one goal I have as a founder and chairman of the board is I want to create an environment where you can grow, develop, and succeed. By the way, the definition of success is entirely yours. It's not mine. And it may include a rank in this company, and it may not. But what it should include is you taking quick check-ins with, who am I? Where am I? Am I happy? Am I engaged? Am I productive and fruitful? Moving forward with my life? Am I looking at new roles I might play, like a grandpa? When kids are younger, right, they're jamming through that next version of themselves. It's happening so fast. But then something happens, right? The paint dries and the road kind of narrows out and then it gets on a long straightaway. And sometimes you find yourself on a long straightaway and you're like, I'm kind of letting this straightaway happen. I argue that you have choice points that are also inflection points. Inflection points meaning a moment in time on the curve of your life that can actually go up. Certainly inflection can go down, but that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in you saying, so where am I? And what inflection point do I want to signal in my life? I think ASEA could be an inflection point for you. And I'm not really good at poker, so I'm not just making this up for you. I'm speaking from real experience. I've seen people that don't like to speak in front of large groups of people that in 2 or 3 years are doing pretty good at that. They're growing and developing. I've seen people looking to create $1,000 a month of income in their 70s, saying, I just need to replace $1,000 a month, going to $1,000 a week. Like making more money than they ever made in their 70s, and saying, like, I would have never guessed it. That same person, right, who's never left the country, qualifies for a trip to Mexico, looks at her husband and says, we're going. He's like, I'm not going. She goes, I'm going. You're staying home. And then shares the story of her actual journey to Mexico, never having left the country. In fact, probably staying pretty close to a radius of her own home. I'll bet many of you know what I'm talking about. These are real people. If you want to know what gets me really excited, it's that. You're not going to see any pictures of Maseratis or like people at tennis clubs, like with sweaters over their shoulder as they're laughing to go get lunch together. Like, I have no interest in showing you those pictures. If you choose to have a certain measure of success and join the tennis club, more power to you. I don't have a problem with the racket club. What I have a problem with is people that come to these events, or people like me who speak at these events, who are top spinning you, who are head faking you into saying, if you just sign up with us, this is what you can expect. That's not true. I can tell you this, if you do sign up and get engaged with this, you can expect some of these folks. By the way, I'm kind of a weird dude. I had the funniest thought. I had this thought, David's walking across the stage. He's like, anybody in this room drink the better part of a quarter of a bottle a day? And I just thought this person walking past things like, those guys are all talking about alcohol. You know, if I'm going to Asia, I'm drinking a bottle a day for some Asian walking by is like, Brad, what do they have against Asia? I have this really weird part of my brain, the Saturday Night Live skit all the time. It's a problem. My kids will tell you it's a problem. My point to you guys is this is an opportunity to consider where you are in the version of yourself. Now, lest you tell me that the paint is dry, I can't change the scenario. Let's talk about the next slide, Susan. Let's talk about my dad for a minute. And those of you that don't know how this all started, my dad's a pretty credible dude. Now, as a son saying that, it's very painful. And I got to work through that. But no, my dad is a very successful guy. And Susan, what I want to do just to speed up is I want you to populate this slide all the way until you see retired. So you can just keep jamming through this and I'll walk you through. So my dad put himself through college, took him longer than 4 years, working in the grocery industry, not terribly glamorous. And then somebody said, you'd be really good in the food side because you understand the retail side. So he took a job, a base level job at General Foods. We moved to Seattle, and then to Delaware, and then ultimately to Connecticut, where I was basically from my age of 5 to 15, my father worked in New York, and we lived in Connecticut. And he went in 15 years, he had 10 different jobs. So do that math really quick. Pretty quick, like, movement, right? And just for the record, his final job of those 10 jobs was the head of sales over a $1.6 billion division of the company, the largest division of that company, General Foods, which was the beverage side. So what that would suggest to you is not only did he take lots of jobs, the jobs were moving up. Entry level spot, and in 15 years, 10 jobs. Are we gonna try another clicker? The clicker doctor. Have you rubbed it with Renew 28? Have you rubbed it? Because I'm in pain and it's going up. Are we ready to try this? Yes. This is like, okay, what's your level of pain? 8. And my level of pain is still 8. Okay, I'm trying again. Ready? Here we go, Susan. I'm telling you, if you walked up here and did it, I would be so cross right now. Okay, so this is my dad's background, and when I was 15 years old, he's like, we're moving to Ohio. I'm like, you're moving to Ohio. I'm staying in Connecticut. And he had been recruited to go run a company called Hobart. Who knows what Hobart makes? Tell me. Commercial food equipment, big stuff, like the kind of stuff. We had a toaster in my house you could drop from like the 5th story of a building and it would still work. These things are like, you could drag this behind a truck all the way down the road and fire up some toast. I mean, it's like commercial grade stuff, heavy duty stuff. And he went there, had a sales and service, and then ultimately was asked to run the company as an EVP for the better part of 5 years. And he did that. He left General Foods because he's like, I want to run the whole company, and they won't let me. I'm kind of tapping out on the sales side. So after that, he was recruited over to Kraft. Kraft had purchased General Foods. So now they were together. Kraft and General Foods were purchased. Back when Philip Morris thought they were going to lose their whole tobacco business, guess what they took all their money and poured it into? They went after food. It's interesting, we could go a long ways talking about that. So, and let's be fair, Kraft is not like a health and wellness company. I make fun of my dad all the time. Although I do think that the way they make the powdered cheese is biotechnology. If he was here, he'd be like, okay, all right. I'm like, come on, this is a biotech product, Kraft mac and cheese. My dad had an opportunity to retire very successfully at age 57. They moved from Chicago. Is anyone else hearing a ringing?
Yes.
Are we trying to fix that? Because that's also causing me pain. And if you didn't say yes, I would have been really worried. You all should have said no. I'd be like, I'm hearing something. David, get up here and rub some Renew in my ears. Okay? When my dad retired at age 57, he moved to Park City, Utah from Chicago. He designed the home of his dreams. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a little secret, Debbie. Turn all of the volume channels down except the one I'm on, and let's see if that helps. Oh, that was me. When my dad, he designed the home of his dreams in Park City, literally like drew it out, took it to an architect, said, this is what I want. And we thought, that's probably a little too loud. Sorry guys, we're having all sorts of issues here. You're so patient. You may want to take, we'll make it, are we gonna make it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it. This is kind of an interesting thing. When A-type personalities retire, they drive their spouse crazy.
Yes.
My mother wasn't really like happy to have my dad around the house every day. Of course, she would smile for all of you, but like I'd go, Mom, how are you doing? She's like, "Dad's driving me nuts, Tyler." Like he's such an intense guy. Like, you know, she's like, I don't need someone telling me how to do laundry after like 40 years of hanging out. So. What ultimately ends up happening is my dad, and he's really, really capable, So he retired, played as much golf as he could, found out that wasn't scratching the itch, and then decides to go build a consulting engine. So Susan, if you'll advance this, he designed a process called Strategic Link, which is his whole model of strategy and execution, and I'll show you this in a minute. I gotta remind you, my dad was the head of strategy internationally for Kraft Foods, $36 billion company, Fortune 50, and a very legitimate senior executive, reported directly to the CEO, who I will speak of here in just a little bit. But during this time, he was asked to consult for a biotech company. And I remember joking with him about the mac and cheese thing, but I was like, Dad, what are you doing in biotech? Like, you're a food guy. And he's like, I can figure it out. I'm smart enough to figure it out. So I would go to the house and he'd have biology and chemistry books, and he was working for, Susan, if you'll populate that next one, a company, National Beef, and a big Dutch company called DMV, it's a dairy industry. And they had a lab, my dad was the CEO, and he was developing a protein that would be applied to beef to protect beef for a longer period of time. Those of you that are anti-meat, and I'm sorry, but that's what it was, it is what it is. And he was working at the lab in California, and there's a thing called lactoferrin. It's in your tears, it's in your saliva, and they were taking that and applying that as an activated product, a natural product to meat. And I tell you that because if you stop and process this, go forward one more, Susan. If he doesn't do the biotech thing, he's never going to really see and understand the research behind this product. And I want you to look at this for a minute. I'm not trying to make him feel good about himself. He's pretty secure. I'm trying to teach a point here. And that is, notice this progress. Now, go to the next slide for me and answer this question. 2 clicks. If this is my dad, my question is, how old was he when he started to see it? Does anyone know? 69. My dad is 69 years old. Now, let's just have a little interchange of how that conversation went. He's 69 years old, life is good, you don't need to be starting this company. And he's like, no, we gotta do this. This is gonna help people. Let's go for it. I'm like, God, hang up the cleats. Have some fun. Hang out with mom and, like, you know, try to build back whatever he was there when you were 25 years old. And I joke, they love each other, but they also drive each other mad, which I think is fairly typical at that retirement age. And so, you know, he's like, no, we need to do this. It's a big deal. Guys, I'm not here. And Lisa Castanetti, who comes up, where's Lisa? She comes up and that doesn't happen if he's not doing this. So the takeaway I want to give you here, Susan, if you'll advance it, is just this simple thing. My dad's always been working on the next version of himself. He's never been riding the clutch. The gears are out. The RPMs are up. He's shifting gears. He's moving forward. He's never just dropping it into neutral or riding the clutch. And that's been something I've learned a great deal from. Now he's 80. He's 80 years old, and with all due respect, he's slowing down as you might expect an 80-year-old to slow down a bit. But the truth, and you say, well, he's got to see it. There's other reasons. It's not just that. But here it is, 10 years later, 133 countries, and it's just a person saying, no, we're going forward. I don't want to talk about the iPhone 4. He's not sitting around talking about Kraft mac and cheese. But that was a big part of his world before. He's saying, what are we going to do next? You know what he's doing now? He's designing a retreat property for all of his children and grandchildren to go through to family reunions. He'll call me, he's like, Tyler, I got to talk to you about this. This is what I'm working on. I'm like, you just need to slow down. He's like, I'm not going to slow down. I want to know that when I leave this place, I went right to the end, and I want to know my kids and my grandkids and great-grandkids are all going to gather together and keep coming together. Every year we go to Lake Powell. Has anyone been to Lake Powell before? It's one of the best kept secrets in all of the United States is Lake Powell. If you look it up on your phone, you'll see why. It's like being on Mars with a lake. And every year we go to Lake Powell with my dad. He just forces us to get together. And as a result, our family has really strong ties beyond just our nuclear family, into cousins and into aunts and uncles. Was that me that did that for you? So this gets to the notion of becoming, okay? The next version of you is about becoming. If you know anything about ASEA, we talk a lot about this notion of believe, belong, become. It sounds really trite, the alliteration of 3B words, I get it, but it's real. It's real. You first have to start believing. Now you say in ASEA? No, I actually think you need to believe in yourself. I think there's a lot of people hung up on the iPhone 4 version of themselves. Quit it. Quit it. Quit thinking about that. It's a waste of time. Start thinking about your iPhone 12. Who do I want to be next? That's number one. Believe enough in yourself to give attention to that. The belonging part, which I'm going to talk a lot about right now, is a pivotal part of this whole notion, because as you belong, it increases the probability of becoming. If you feel alone, if you don't really feel like you believe in yourself, and then you don't have a belonging, you don't have anybody that cares enough to say, you know what, you're really good at this. You're really good at free throws. You ought to keep playing. Oh wow, that's getting worse. David, would you like to finish my presentation? Don't tell me you went to like Best Buy or something about another. This is like the fourth one. It's working for me. All right, you're gonna hurt my feelings here. Is it this one? No, the side. Well, of course, the side. Hey. Yeah, thanks. I sent it. Okay, I'm gonna move quickly here. So my question to you guys is, what's the next version of you? And I'm gonna ask you some rhetorical questions. If we had more time, I would. Are you kidding me? Okay, I'll stand right here. Did you do that? Suzanne? This is a comedy of errors. The parade of horribles. Those of you here for the first time and walk out like these guys can't even get a clicker. And this is a breakthrough technology. Are you kidding me? So I want you to think about this. What's the next version of you? Okay? Next version of you. Oh boy. Next version of me. I'm going to point there. Okay. What's you plus 5 look like? What's you plus 10 look like? Maybe a couple questions you can consider. If it's Susan, I'm going to be mad. It's you, Susan, doing it right. Thanks. In the next version of you, I'd like to ask this question. What do you want to become? I have no interest in iPhone 4. Don't talk to me about iPhone 4. I don't care what limitations you have. I don't care what math teacher in the 5th grade told you you couldn't do long division. I don't care. What do you want to become? What do you want it to look like? You going to carve wood and teach at the university after decades at the Air Force, right? It's like the next version of you. I'm trying to track with you. I'm like, wow, cool next version. Do you enjoy teaching at the university, David? You love it, right? Did you know you love it that much? Honestly, you said last night, I'm really enjoying this. I enjoy teaching. That's somebody working on the next version of you. So don't make it about ASEA. ASEA is along for the ride. Make this about you. Figure out what that is. If ASEA can be part of that journey, great. If it can't, and you walk out here considering this, I still won today. Because ASEA is going to win without you, I hate to tell you. And you're going to win without me. I'd love to win together, but I'm not that guy that's going to stand up and say, you can't win unless you're with us. That's not true or fair. The truth of this matter is you need to figure this part out for you. I think I can help you. I think I can accelerate this with settings like these and opportunities to give some thought to this, because most people aren't spending a whole lot of time pondering this. So what do you want to become? Make a note to yourself and promise yourself in the next 7 days, carve out 1 hour of time and give yourself a chance to write the answer to this. And if you want to call it me plus 5, call it me plus 5, me plus 1, me plus 2. Okay? I'm going to try this without Susan's help. Susan, what time is it?
1:45.
Oh wow, okay, gotta move. Here we go. Okay, I need your help, Susan. We're gonna go fast. This is unbelievable. I got more clickers up here than Renew 28. Next question, what do you want to do? Why do you do it? Or why do you do it? What do you want to become? Why? Tell me why you do it. There's got to be some cause mentality underneath, some second order level that motivates you. Because the monotony in most lives, we never connect ourselves back to the why. And I would hope that just the economic dimension of the why doesn't dominate every other dimension. Because a lot of us answer that question of why I do it because I need the money. And there's got to be a way to break out of that cycle of the why is economic. If the why is just money, then my guess is you're stuck in the iPhone 4. And you need to get out of it. You need to break out of that. Next slide. Last question here. What's the impact you made? Think about that. Think about my dad at age 69 answering this question. My dad has 3-ring binders at the house. Kind of old school. That's all right. 3 inches big, and several of them. And you know what they are? They're letters, not the chemicals. They're letters from people in this room. They're letters. And he reads 5 a day. On his 80th birthday, we invited the world to send him a letter, and they did, and they came in stacks. And he calls me into the house, and he goes, you need to read this one. Read that. And this is the truth. He'll just sit there, and he was a tough old guy when he was younger. And he'll just sit there, and his eyes will water up, and his lip will quiver a little bit, and I'll look at him, and he'll go, what do you make of that? How does that happen? So you start asking this question, what's the impact you made? Well, he could pull out 5 binders, 3 inches big, and lay them on the table and go, I didn't think this was going to be the impact, but this is the impact. So I'd like to challenge you guys to consider in the next version of yourself, what's the impact? And I don't care if it's, I'm going to teach and I'm going to help somebody consider getting a master's degree or a PhD, or I'm going to inspire someone to go into a different career, right? Or I'm going to help somebody change, stop eating meat. If that's you, that's great. I don't care what the impact is, but you need to consider it so that that next version starts to take shape, right? I promise you, they're talking about the iPhone 12. They're saying, what are we going to do differently with the camera? What are we going to do differently with this, the interface, any number of things? They're constantly thinking about what's the impact going to be of that next version. Ooh, the singing went away. Hallelujah. Thank you. Whatever they're paying you, it's not enough. You tell them I said that. You need me to fill out some card, I will fill the card out for you. Okay, quick things. I'm going to run you through some quotes. If you know who you're becoming, Susan, it informs who you are now. Think about that. How many lines can go through a single point mathematically? Almost an infinite number, correct? How many lines can go through 2 points? 1. When you know the point 1 is, I want to go there, it kind of backs into, okay, this is what I got to do to get there. It creates this relationship. Welcome back. Next slide, Susan. If you go through this concept, belonging, next slide, Susan, is simply how can we help each other become the truest next level? Now it's up to us to help each other. As soon as I know what I want to do to become, my wife and I sit down and she says, this is what I want to become, I am enlisted. That's my job. I got to move the front, anything in front of her and help her become what she wants to become. My kids, the same. I sit down with my kids, we set goals, and I say, what do you want? Start with desire. It's a compound word, the back end of which is sire, which means to father, to create, or to lord. If you don't have a desire, if you don't know what you want to create to father or sire, that's where you got to start. You got to figure that out and write it down. Then what? You got to share that with me. You got to share that with someone who cares about you, where it's safe. And then I've got to enlist in helping you. That's why we say, how do we help each other become the truest next version of ourselves? It's the belonging. It's others around you that care enough to help. How can we help each other? If you go forward, Susan. If you look at this book again, awesome quotes on this. I'm going to rifle through these quickly because I've got more content than time. You become like the people you hang with. Believe that? Maybe check in on that version. What version am I hanging with right now? Right? And you end up going where they're headed. Might be a good idea if there's someone behind the wheel to ask them where they're going, because you're giving some actual control and influence to them over your world. That's a big point. Next slide, Susan. It's a pretty good idea to ask them where they're going before you get in the car. I hope you can sense where we're going as a company. I want to show you where we're going. You don't have to get in my car. You don't have to. But I should be able to tell you, this is where we're headed. Go on, shotgun, take it. I got you fooled, man. You should see the way I drive. People don't grow where they're informed. Anyone want to finish the second half of this? People don't grow where they're informed, they grow where? Any guesses? Where they're planted? Inspired, I'll take that one, that's a good one. Where they're challenged, I'll dig that. Where they're loved. Here's the next answer. They grow where they're accepted. We gotta take people where they are. We gotta make them feel comfortable coming here and being who they are. When my little son was playing basketball and first started, the first games he played on this pretty high-level team, I'm telling you what, that poor little guy, he'd get the ball, and he would dish the ball. And it was almost like kinetic, like weird. And I pull him aside, I got in the car, I go, hey James, let me ask you a question. Be really honest with me. You get the ball, what's the first thing you're thinking about doing? I go, no, just tell me the answer. He goes, pass. I go, that's right. I'm watching you pass the ball. Is passing good? Yes. But I've seen it's almost like you're playing defense in your head. And then I said this to him. I said, I want you to miss. I want you to miss. And he's looking at me like, why are you telling me to miss? I'm supposed to make the shot. No, you're so worried about missing. Look how you're taking the shot. Just miss.
I want you to miss.
So, next game, same thing. Real scared. Like real scared playing defense, right? And I go, James, let me ask you a question. Remember we talked last time? I counted how many times the coach's son shot and missed. In the first 5 minutes of the second half of this game, he shot 8 times and missed 7 times.
He made one.
He made one, thank you. And he's happy. So why do you think you're not shooting? This is interesting. 10 years old. He's worried about what the coach might think. Do you think the coach's son is worried about his dad telling him to quit shooting? He's in the backyard with his dad all the time. This is a metaphor. We don't like to shoot and miss. Social media messes people up. They think that this is like real. This is not real. This is messing up kids. I'm reading a real interesting book about the effects on the human mind in our youth, on what social media is doing to them, particularly young ladies, and they're being taught that there's some standard they're supposed to live up to, and they can't reach it. College campuses tripling therapy for anxiety and depression, suicide climbing. People don't feel good about themselves. We need to tell these girls and boys they can miss. We need to quit telling them they're supposed to look like a Kardashian or anybody else. They need to be who they are. They need to look who they are. I need to start them from there. And I'm worried about it because I have kids that struggle with this. I'm like, time out. This is a fake reality. This is just not real. So people need to feel accepted. We should not be differentiating ourselves. I could go on all afternoon, no bathroom breaks on this. No bathroom breaks. We are human beings. We are more alike than not. Tribalism is not who this country is and not who I am. You are my brother and you are my sister. Period. Full stop. Regardless of your faith, your race, I don't care. That's who you are. If you are spreading a form of identity that divides, that inspires hate or negative feelings, you probably need to pack up and get out of here. I don't want that for this company. I want someone who believes in the humanity, not in the tribalism that separates. And this is a place where we need to accept people. And they should be free to come with their beliefs and with their interpretation, but they should absolutely respect and appreciate everyone else's. That's what we should be. So keep this in mind. We need to speak words to each other that point us to that next version of ourselves. We need to inspire each other. We need to encourage each other. Next slide, Susan. We need to absolutely realize that the words that we say are not describing who we are, they're actually shaping who we are. The guy that wrote this book said when he was like 20 years old, this guy said to him, he got early to a meeting. And he sat down at the meeting 10 minutes early, and the guy walks in and he says, "You honor me by being on time." He was like, "I never forgot it. And I became habitually punctual." I just said, that was so powerful to me, it shaped me. I said, I'm an on-time person. And he lived the rest of his life saying that by one thing that somebody said, he shaped it. We can shape each other. Teachers, if you're a teacher in this room, you better build. Your job is to build. Unskilled labor tears down. Remember the poem? Have you ever heard me say it? I watched them tear a building down, a gang of men in a busy town. With a ho-heave-ho and a lusty yell, they swung a beam and a sidewall fell. I asked the foreman, are these men skilled? The kind you would hire if you had to build. He gave an answer and said, no indeed. Unskilled labor is all I need. I can easily reckon a day or two what a builder has taken a year to do. Guys, we need to build. We need to build. Hit the mute button on people deconstructing you. And what if we create an environment where the words we say about each other are shaping each other to be the best next version of ourselves? What would that feel like? Instead of divisiveness or hatred or any number of things that are prevailing all around us. I'm like, are you kidding me? This isn't real. What's real is people. What's real is families. What's real is everyone trying to do the best they can. So remember this. Next slide, Susan. Listen, guys, words of encouragement have their own power. I wish I could hang out and be your shadow for a day, and I would just have a little tick sheet. And I would track down how many times you gave an encouraging word to somebody else. How many times have you been generous? We think of generosity as money. Emotional generosity is very valuable. If with pleasure you are viewing any work a man is doing, if you like him or you love him, tell him now. Don't withhold your approbation till the parson makes oration and he lies with snowy lilies over his brow. Okay? If you sing some praise, by the way, the rest of that poem says, really interesting poem. My mom used to make me memorize poems as a kid. This is one of them. She would say it all the time. It continues. No matter if you can scream it, right? You can say it as loud as you want, but he won't hear it. He won't know how many tears you've shed. If you think some praise is due him, now's the time to slip it to him, because he cannot read his tombstone when he's dead. Right? Look up the rest of that poem. I could give it to you, but I'm running out of time. Here's the story, guys. We aren't encouraging enough. Stop discouraging. First off, kill the unintelligent voice in your head talking about the iPhone 4. Second off, start encouraging each other. If somebody's here for the first time, and if they so choose to get engaged in this, great. Honor agency. Somebody comes up and says, my sister won't do this. What's my answer? You all know what it is? Leave your sister alone. My husband thinks this is fun. Leave your husband alone. Find somebody that this is going to resonate with. Right? Speak from a place of conviction, but don't try to change my eye color. You don't need to do that. I will liberate you from the pain management of trying to do this business by one thing. Just leave people alone that don't want it and keep talking to people who might. And do it from a place of enjoyment.
Strongest word ever.
These words that we say to each other can launch. They have power in them. And we can launch each other. Another slide, Susan, if you will. People need to understand that words that are spoken with kindness, they can endure. Think of a kind word said to you at a very pivotal time in your life by someone that had an impact. And think about how much you remember it. Think of a voicemail message that you might have saved back in that day. Think of a handwritten note you probably have in a shoebox somewhere. The story he tells here that points to this little girl, he says, every week I used to go buy candy, and I'd walk into this little store and I'd dump out my change, and this kind attendant at the store would begin to count with me. And I had already picked out the candy. I was so excited. And he's counting, and he's counting, and he's counting, and sure enough, we're short. And then he kind of grabs his chin and looks down, and he says, right there, and pulls one out, and there, and both of those happen to be shiny pennies. And he says, shiny pennies are worth double. And he takes the candy Andy, and he walks out. That boy was like 6 years old, and he says, I've never forgotten that moment. Shiny pennies are worth double. So here's my question. If I was your shadow for a week or a day, would I catch you encouraging somebody else? Would I catch you asking somebody to stay after class and say, I've watched you for the last week, you're doing a great job? Because you think that's minor, and that's called investment grade. You are investing in humanity around you. And people will look at you and say, that's made a difference in my life. If I was your shadow for the better part of a week or a month, and I was just hanging with you and we're at lunch after a month, I'm like, I'm gonna get you every day for 30 days. You're not really doing a lot of this. I got a secret for you. You're gonna be happier if you do. You're going to be happier if you do. More than fame and more than money is the comment, kind and sunny, and the hearty warm approval of a friend. It gives to life a savor. It makes us stronger and braver, and gives us heart and spirit to the end. Remember, how you say what you say to each other begins to form who we become. Who you hang with matters. More important is what they're saying to you. I'm very patient with somebody that might be taking shots. I get criticized a lot in the role that I'm in, and 9 times out of 10 they're right. So I better be patient enough and humble enough to hear it. But if I feel someone is coming at me spirited, or in some way trying to take away my courage by discouraging me, I tend to quickly remove myself from that person's influence. At this company, if you come here, that's how it should feel. You should feel encouraged. And your definition of success is yours. It might include a rank, it might include money, it might include a number of things. That's actually really not that important. What's important is once you know the next version of you and what you want it to feel like and look like, that you can communicate it safely, and you can know you're okay to miss here. It's okay to miss. Much rather shoot it, have a team of kids start shooting. The postscript to the story on James in basketball is, and I knew it was going to happen. It was unbelievable. I had a freshman moment. I was like, this is going to happen. He was in a game. The game was close. We were down 1. And he got the ball, and it was such an intense, quick moment. He didn't have time to process, like pass it or do something else. He just did what he had been working on for so long, and he wins the game. And all of his siblings were there, even the married ones. They were just in town, and we all said, let's go watch James play today. So all of his siblings are encouraging him. And all of a sudden what's happening is this mental image of himself. I saw it happen almost instantaneously. I'm a game winner. I'm a last-minute shot game winner. And it was like this. And within 2 weeks, like, they're resetting up the team. He's the captain of the team. He came in last week for a game. He's like, God, I scored 29 points in our game. He's really good. But what happened here. And it happened because he had that moment. And then all of his siblings were coming at him and saying, great job. You did it. I knew you could do it. I knew it was going in the minute it left your hand. And all of a sudden, this little 10-year-old, very fragile like clay, this little mind and sense of identity, what I'm possible to do, what is possible to do, starts to firm up a little bit. And it's like, wow. So my question to you guys is the paint dry on us? Do I need to be 10 years old and malleable and have more redox signaling molecules in my body? I mean, or can we actually take a minute and say, I got some programming on the hard drive that's probably worth deleting off the drive. And there's a few people that have said some stuff to me over the years I've probably given way too much power to. I need to be more encouraging to people around me. If with pleasure you are viewing any work a man is doing, if you like him or you love him, tell him now. That's the game. Right? If he earns your praise, bestow it. If you like him, let him know it. Don't wait till life is over and he's underneath the clover because he cannot read his tombstone when he's dead. Encourage each other, help each other. That's what this should be about. Listen to cheerful words, not loud ones, Boy, there's a lot of loud voices that I love to mute right now. Here's a great question for you. How is your life working? And you say, well, that's a great question. I'd love to answer that question. Here's the rest of the question. For those around you. The guy that wrote this book said he was speaking and working hard, and then he pulled into the driveway of his house, throws the car in park, looks up to the window in the front of the window, and his wife had placed a help wanted sign. Can you imagine the walk from the car to the front door? By the way, with 6 kids, I know this feeling. I know walking in the door and seeing my wife's face and being like, yeah, help wanted. And he walked in and she's like, your life isn't working for me right now. What would it look like if your marriage or family or in your teams, you woke up every day saying, how's my life working for those on my team? Wow. What if you made your all-consuming occupation the success of the people on your team? And you stopped being wrapped around the axle of your own interests and your own worries and concerns. And you said, you know what, my only question I'm going to ask every day is, how's my life working for those around me? You'd be a better spouse. You'd be a better teacher. You'd be a better everything. If you see others as brothers, good. If you see others as fathers, maybe you need to ask this question. Think about that for a minute. Next slide, Susan. This is my family, the 2 youngest. We were on a hike. We have a little place up in the mountains, and we love to get out and just hike. And my kids will make fun of me. Next slide, because I'll stop, look, like anytime I see a big tree that the Forest Service has cut, I'll sit there and stare at this. I'm a weird dude. Like, I would stare at this. And my son will be like, Dad, why are you looking at another tree? It's the same tree as a tree. But what I see here is this concept of the next version. Did you know you can cork a tree and determine if it was in drought, if it went through a fire? I just think about your life. I was an investment guy for 17 years. I was a chief distribution officer for a 100-year-old company. I busted my tail to get there before CA. And I lived my life teaching people about compounding interest and the importance of that. Does anyone know what really compound interest is? It's growth on growth. And that's this. That's this. You guys are the tree. And so I'd love to cork the tree and pull it out and look at you and say, oh, you were in drought here. That was a tough season. Or, oh, you had lots of water here. But what's most important is that next version. It goes through seasons. Cold, warm, cool. But my point to my kids is, think about this next version of yourself, what you want it to be. I will tell you this, it's my oath and commitment to you guys that is Syria will be a place where the tree can grow. And I do get letters from people saying, hey, this person's not living it right. I get people calling it out. We live in kind of a call-out culture. We need to be careful. The best place to live the ethos is in the mirror. Most custom invitation to be treated the way you want to be treated is to look in the mirror and say, how am I part of any problem? Second, you answer that question honestly, you quietly invite the other person to do the same. If you have the courage to say, hey, I think I'm